Ready, set, adventure! Welcome to Hikanuki World Tour. Today we're talking about food on the NCL Spirit. Come see what we liked best and what we would skip next time around. From restaurants included in your cruise fare to the specialty restaurants that come with an upcharge, come along as we share our hits and misses. We sailed aboard Norwegian Spirit on a Southeast Asia cruise in February of 2025. These are our opinions of our favorite and least favorite food items, based on this particular sailing and based on our own personal preferences. These are just the highlights. If you're looking for more in-depth reviews, take a look at our daily videos where we showed everything we ate on each day. First, let's talk about which starters we thought were the best and which we think you should pass. And we're starting with the included main dining room options. For reference, here's a look at our Shaka rating scale. This is what we'll be using throughout the video. We gave the Italian beef meatballs 4 Shakas. The meat and sauce were both very flavorful. Likewise, we enjoyed the shrimp cake. It was filled with shrimp and served with a mustard remoulade sauce. For me, I thought all of the soups deserved 4 Shakas. With one exception, and I'll show that in a minute. I especially liked the corn chowder that I had at lunch one day. It was light and cheesy and flavorful and was just what I needed on that cold day. The onion soup was served with a Gruyere cheese crouton instead of being baked with melty cheese on top, which did make it easier to eat. I thought the broth had rich flavor with just the right amount of onions. The soup which I didn't care for was the cream of asparagus soup. I gave it 2 Shakas, which means it was fair but needs improvement. The flavor just wasn't there. And our final best of the appetizers was the strawberry spinach salad. We had this on our final day at sea, and it was a delicious, light, summery salad. And I thought there was a perfect balance among all the elements. One salad that I felt missed the mark was the caprese salad. The tomatoes were underripe, the cheese didn't seem that fresh, and it was served with pesto, not balsamic vinegar. The underripe tomatoes really ruined it for me. But on another day, the experience might be different. The bruschetta also suffered from underripe tomatoes. Additionally, the garlic was overpowering, it was impossible to cut and made for a messy bite. Another appetizer that missed the mark were the flautas. They were also difficult to cut and the outside was not crispy. Even as a finger food, they just weren't that good. And now let's move on to the entrees at the main dining rooms and see what we like there. Be sure to take the time to have breakfast in one of the main dining rooms. There were no misses for this meal. The fluffy pancakes with blueberry syrup and whipped cream were delicious, as were the eggs Benedict with a perfectly poached egg. You'll get a more made-to-order breakfast and it will exceed the buffet as long as you have the time to enjoy it. On a sea day, I recommend lunch in one of the main dining rooms. Long after the cruise, you'll remember this richly decadent Monte Cristo sandwich. You'll find equally decadent dinner options. This lamb shank received one of the highest ratings we gave out. It was tender and the meat fell right off the bone. The turkey scallopini with gnocchi also received high ratings. And sometimes you're just in the mood for some comfort food. The 3-cheese baked ziti can really hit the spot. It's on the menu nightly and can be a good alternative when you're in the mood for some cheesy pasta. Unfortunately, not everything was outstanding. The pineapple chicken skewer was very disappointing as the chicken had a rubbery texture and not very much flavor. For this entree, the chimichurri was very good, but the steak was tough and undercooked for my liking. The ribs were another very average entree. Although they weren't bad, there really wasn't anything to set them apart, except maybe the french fries. But otherwise, I'd recommend skipping this entree. I'd also rate the lemon pepper chicken as average. Although there was nothing bad about it, there's just other options that are better. And now for something sweet. You're on a cruise, so you might as well indulge. If you're not in the mood for a rich chocolate dessert or cake, save some room for sherbet and ice cream. I'm sure you'll be glad that you did. If you're feeling more decadent, try this milk chocolate mousse. There were many different flavors of cheesecake offered nightly. They were light and not too sweet and a good way to end the meal. Desserts we weren't too crazy about and felt missed the mark include this raspberry creme brulee. It didn't have much flavor and the brulee on top was very thin. We've certainly had better on other ships. Likewise, the chocolate eclair didn't taste homemade. It tasted like what you would get in the frozen food section at Costco. The Snickers cheesecake also missed the mark. The cheesecake was fine, but just didn't live up to the Snickers name. In addition to the main dining rooms, you could find complimentary options at the buffet and the local. We won't rate all the options separately, we just want you to see what they have. The local is open 24 hours a day. It serves breakfast, lunch, dinner, and late night snacks. There was no pizza restaurant on the Spirit, so this is your go-to when you're hungry. As such, we tried just about everything on the menu. The food was good and the service was good, and there were a few standout items. The fish sandwich was one of the outstanding items. Fish was hot and flavorful, and you could also get this as fish and chips if you didn't want the bun. Chicken wings and nachos were also great options. This was a 10-day cruise, so sometimes it was just nice to have some bar food. And this was one of the best hot fudge sundaes I've had in a very long time. And here's a quick look at some of the other items on the menu. Pretzel bites with cheese, cream of broccoli soup, spinach and artichoke dip, Cobb salad, blue cheeseburger and fries, grilled sausage sliders with mustard. Save room for dessert because there's apple pie with ice cream, brownie raspberry swirl cheesecake, carrot and walnut cake with cream cheese frosting, and another appearance of the hot fudge sundae. But that's not all, folks. Visit the local for breakfast. Choose eggs cooked your way with breakfast potatoes, French toast, fruit salad, yummy yummy, an omelet with breakfast potatoes, or even an English breakfast. So as you can see, the local's a great place to stop for a bite, either day or night. You'll probably spend some time at the Garden Cafe, NCL Spirit's buffet. Just don't forget to wash your hands.
Washy, washy, happy, happy, Norwegian Spirit's #1.
Again, we won't rate things individually, but we'll show you what you can expect. For us, we mostly had breakfast at the buffet, occasionally lunch, and rarely dinner. For breakfast, you could find American favorites alongside international favorites. There was always a large and diverse offering of hot foods. Fresh fruit was always available. It was one of my favorite options. And sometimes a box of cereal is all you need to start your day. At the buffet, you'll also find a beverage station. Enjoy coffee, tea, water, and juices. At lunch, there was always something interesting cooking, from hamburgers and hot dogs and fresh-made sandwiches to pizza. There were plenty of options to please. And there were also hot items with an international flair, as well as a carved meat station. Moving on to dinner, you'll find more international specialties. There were plenty of side items to choose from, as well as interesting main courses. The buffet was a good evening option, especially if you were trying to catch a show, and always a carved meat station. One thing about this buffet was there wasn't a lot of Indian food to choose from, and I thought the ship in general was a little light on vegetarian options. And no meal on a cruise is complete without dessert. There's always room for ice cream or sherbet, or colorfully decorated cheesecake. And there was even a crepe station. And on our final sea day, there was an added bonus, a poolside barbecue. It was a windy day, but the crew pulled it off without a hitch. And now the specialty dining options that we chose. We had 2 included as part of More at Sea, and then added one more and paid extra for that one. At $40, Onda was the least expensive, so that's the one we chose to pay for. We started at Silk Restaurant. This used to be complimentary, but now they're charging a cover charge of $50. We started strong with the Imperial Chicken Wonton Noodle Soup with prawns. The soup was full of flavor and ingredients. Next, we had the Honey Stung Shrimp. The sauce was just the right blend of spicy and sweet. and the shrimp were nice and crispy. After that, the appetizers were much more average. The char siu barbecued ribs weren't that flavorful, and the ribs were a little chewy. The crispy barbecued duck spring rolls also sounded better than they actually tasted, although the hoisin dipping sauce was very good. The steamed dumplings were definitely a miss. With the specialty dining, we each got 3 appetizers, 1 entree, and 3 desserts. For us, we enjoyed 3 of the appetizers, but not the other 3. With a $50 a la carte charge, I did think this restaurant was overpriced. I did enjoy my entree, which was a black pepper beef and broccoli. The beef was tender and cooked perfectly, and I enjoyed the pepper sauce. Our next specialty restaurant that we tried was Cagney's Steakhouse. And spoiler alert, this was our best meal of the cruise. I had the wedge salad, which could have been a meal in itself. It was one of the best I've ever had. The prime rib was indeed a cut above. It was cooked perfectly at medium rare and served with au jus and a mild horseradish. It was as good as any you'd find in an upscale steakhouse. And the filet was just as good as the prime rib. It came with a peppercorn and béarnaise sauce, neither of which was necessary. The meat was tender and practically melted in your mouth. In comparison to how good the steaks were, the side dishes were a little more average. The spinach was creamy but a little thin on the sauce, and I prefer chopped spinach. The sautéed mushrooms were a little better than the spinach, but not outstanding. And the baked potato was good, but very small. Even though we were very full, we went ahead and got the OMG caramel butterscotch cheesecake. It'll be hard, but try to save some room for this. While we really enjoyed our dinner, there is a $60 cover charge here, but it's definitely worth using one of your specialty dining credits for. Our next specialty restaurant that we tried was Onda by Scarpetta. We've dined at Onda on other NCL ships and find it to be a very good Italian restaurant. It has a very contemporary feel, and my biggest complaint is there's too much food. Because there was so much, we'll just share the highlights here. First was the yellowtail crudo. It was sliced thin and buttery and delicious. This appetizer definitely had an upscale feel. We also had the margarita pizza as an appetizer. Our waiter warned us that it was going to be a huge portion. He was right, and that was really the only thing wrong with the pizza. It was supposed to be a margarita pizza and there weren't really any fresh tomatoes on it, but based on some of the tomatoes we had had elsewhere, that was probably a good thing, as they tended to be very underripe. So this ate more like a cheese pizza, which was fine by me. By comparison, the appetizer that was underwhelming was the fritto misto. This featured various fried fish and vegetables, and the breading just wasn't very crispy, and the dish overall was very average. Moving on to entrees, I had the filet mignon, and although it was good, it didn't come anywhere near the taste of the one at Cagney's. As a personal preference, I'm very averse to truffle, and there was truffle in the sauce, which ruined it for me. My husband had the veal Milanese, which he thought was about a 3.75. It was good, but not necessarily that special. One thing not to be missed was for dessert, the tiramisu. It was served cold, it was creamy, and had plenty of coffee flavor. It was definitely an extraordinary dessert. On our cruise, and for the specialty restaurants we tried, I'd say Cagney's was the best, followed by Onda, and Silk really wasn't worth the money. And that was a look at the food that we enjoyed on the NCL Spirit. We enjoyed the places that were included in our cruise fare, and More at Sea gave us a chance to try some of the specialty restaurants. Overall, there was more that we liked than that we didn't like, and we always found the service to be outstanding and the pacing of the meals to be good. We'd give food on the NCL Spirit a 3.75, just short of excellent. Thanks for joining us at Hikanuki World Tour and our review of the food on the NCL Spirit. Our travel wisdom for the day comes from George Eliot. No man can be wise on an empty stomach. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram. And hit that notification bell so you'll be alerted when new videos are dropped.